The Red Sweater, When a Poet Changed Justice. Recently, I came across a true crime case that made me reflect on the power of storytellers, especially those who carry an agenda. It reminded me of Plato's Republic, a foundational work of philosophy. In it, Plato warns about poets who tell lies about the gods and people, shaping public's opinion not by sharing truth but by pulling on emotions. A warning that feels eerily relevant to a French case that began with a horrendous crime and went into becoming the case to champion the abolition of the death penalty. The catalyst? A single book, The Red Sweater. But it didn't end there. 50 years later, some people are still dealing with the consequences of the case, which led to many more crimes. Part 1. The Crime. Marseille, June 3rd, 1974. A Monday holiday. Two children, Maria Dolores, 8, and her 6-year-old brother Jean-Baptiste were playing outside. It was close to noon, and their mother was cooking a beef stew. A man pulled up in a gray car. He said he was looking for his black dog and asked the children for help. He told the boy to search in one direction and took Maria Dolores the other way. The children accepted, but when Jean-Baptiste returned, the car and his sister were gone. Days later, her mutilated body was found in a forest near Marseille. It shocked the entire nation. Even the local mafia, hardened criminals, had an unspoken rule: you don't hurt children. France was terrified. People were calling for murder at every turn of the police station. So the police acted quickly. A couple days later, a couple reported a hit and run with a gray Peugeot carrying what looked like a bundle or possibly a child. They noted the license plate. The car belonged to a young man named Christian Ranucci. When brought in, Ranucci initially admitted only to the accident, but eventually, under pressure, he confessed to the murder. He even led police to the murder weapon and the victim's red sweater, buried in the woods. He later recounted his confession, but the public wanted justice. Ranucci was convicted and guillotined at 4:13 a.m. on a Sunday. The year was 1976. Part 2. The book that changed everything. 2 years later, a book was published, Le Pullover Rouge, or The Red Sweater in English, by Gilles Perrault. It didn't offer new evidence, no surprise witnesses, no technological breakthroughs, just a new narrative. Perrault, an anti-death penalty activist, questioned the boy's testimony. He highlighted how Jean-Baptiste described the car as a Simca, not a Peugeot, and the fact that, when presented with Ranucci, the boy couldn't recognize him. From this, Perrault painted a picture of a rushed investigation, police under pressure, and a country eager to find a culprit. Maria Dolores' father, who once cooperated with journalists, vandalized bookstores that sold Perrault's book. The family felt betrayed. The country had turned against them. Their daughter forgotten. Their son mocked. Ranucci became the martyr. But here's the twist. Haunted by this turn of events, Jean-Baptiste, the boy whose testimony helped convict Ranucci, grew up to become a murderer himself. Obsessed with Perrault's book, he lived in its shadow. Decades later, he brutally killed 2 women. The first one was his boss, and the other one was a complete stranger, all in act of explosive rage. Part 3. Philosophy and Emotion. This is where Plato re-enters the picture. In the Republic, Plato criticized poets like Homer for shaping opinions through emotions rather than reason. He believed that only truth shaped by logic and wisdom should guide society. Perrault may have believed in his cause, but the structure of his arguments leans heavily on emotional resonance and rhetorical strategy. He took minor inconsistencies and magnified them into doubt into momentum, and momentum into national change. He said he did not write a book of innocence, but a book of doubt. Yet that doubt redefined the narrative. In his version, Ranucci was a victim. The boy testimony became the exemplification of the police's error. The grieving family was indirectly complicit of wanting the murder of an innocent. The poet moved the public, and the truth became secondary. Part 4. Rigor versus rhetoric. In any judicial case, doubt exists. Testimony, especially from children, is unreliable. The boy may have made mistakes. The couple who saw the gray car were unsure. Ranucci gave conflicting statements. But none of this disproves his guilt. It just raises questions. Instead of trying to free a potentially guilty man, the stronger argument would have been, no justice system is infallible. And if the death penalty requires absolute certainty, and certainty is impossible, then the death penalty must go. That alone would have been enough, but it probably wouldn't have moved hearts. Perrault knew this. Emotion was the key. He wasn't a judge, he was a poet. Final part, a warning to authors. We, as authors, storytellers, thinkers, we aren't responsible for other people's crime, but we are responsible for the impact of our ideas. Perrault may have contributed to ending capital punishment in France, but he also left a broken family to carry the weight of a nation's doubt. Poetry can move people. It can make the masses rise. But when wielded without rigor, it can lead to injustice as much as justice. In the end, Plato may have been right. Stories are powerful, and not all truth survives their telling. So we must ask, what do we value more, the emotional triumph of a story or the quiet rigor of the truth?